औज़ुबिल्लाहि मिनश्शैतानिर्रजीम बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम क़ुल या अय्युहल काफ़िरून ला अअबुदु मा तअबुदून वला अंतुम आबिदून मा अअबुद वला अना आबिदुम मा अबदतुम वला अंतुम आबिदून मा अअबुद लकुम दीनुकुम वलिय दीन। सदक़ल्लाहुल अज़ीम। On behalf of the Institute of Regional Studies, I welcome you all to this very important webinar on the Rashtriya Swayam Sevak Sangh in India. The RSS or Sangh Parivar is an important organization in India, which can be considered the parent organization of various other right-wing Indian organizations, and it could be considered even the parent organization of the current ruling political party in India, that is the BJP. Despite that, however, and despite the fact that RSS is known for the fact that one of its members killed Mahatma Gandhi on January 30th, 1948, the understanding about RSS in Pakistan is either very limited or based on cliches and generalizations. That is why we have organized this webinar today to dig deeper into into the reality of the organization and to understand this organization better. Therefore, the questions that we have kept for discussion in this webinar are: what is the role of RSS in Indian society in the current scenario? What is the political role of RSS? How it actually acquired its political role, and how RSS and its offshoots are perceived in India. To discuss these important questions about an important organizations, we have a panel of two eminent speakers today, that is Dr. SAIF MALIK and Dr. MUJEEB AFZAL. Our first speaker today is Dr. SAIF MALIK, who is Tamka Imtiaz and has produced a number of research articles along with book chapters. The hallmark of his work include an elementary book on research titled Research Manual, Understanding Research in Social Sciences, and an edited book, Pakistan-Sri Lanka Relations, A Story of Friendship. A little known fact about him is that he's fluent in Arabic. He has also rendered services as an interpreter in Arabic with high-profile delegations and represented Pakistan at different forums abroad. Dr. Malik has spent an extended tenure at National Defense University, Islamabad in various capacities, such as the Director Research and Publications, Editor of the NDU Journal, Margala Papers and ISRA Papers, founding HOD of the MPhil program, Faculty of Social Sciences, Faculty of Security Studies, NSWC, founding Director BS program, Faculty of Contemporary Studies. Dr. SAIF joined ISSI as Director India Study Center in January 2020. Dr. SAIF is an alumnus of Qaid-e-Azam University. With that introduction, I hand over the floor to you, Dr. SAIF.
Thank you for this very generous introduction. The topic assigned to me is the political role of RSS in India. And this topic is indeed very closer to my heart, which I am just going to discuss. At the outset, let me begin with some very fundamental question. What is the future of India under RSS, and where ultimately it is heading to? What will be the fate of democracy with the existing mindset and the ideology? So, having said so, these two fundamental questions, let me proceed with the assigned topic. Founded in 1925, the RSS today boasts 6 million active members. Most of the BJP leaders, including Modi, have a long history as member of the volunteer movement. The group threw its weight behind Modi ahead of its crushing 2014 election victory over Congress. Rashtriya Swayam Sevak Sangh, RSS generally, is a Hindu umbrella group, which is the ideological inspiration of PM Modi's right-wing Bharatiya Janata Party, BJP. RSS, which presents itself as a cultural organization, advocates a Hindu nationalistic agenda under the banner of Hindutva or Hinduism. RSS is the ideological mentor to the Prime Minister Narendra Modi's BJP party. It is increasingly playing an influential role both at internal and external front within the government, even outside the government. Over the past couple of years, the organization has become even more influential and managed to place its ardent followers in the highest ranks in the government. RSS has recently witnessed a spike in its membership requests, indicating its growing popularity among cross sections of Indian populace. The RSS has always had a long-term plan. Today, its position to influence the highest decision-making in the country and has its people in key positions within the government. They believe in this robust nationalism. The area study experts are apprehensive about RSS growing presence and influence. They fear that the organization's clout will soon allow it to determine the nation's political discourse and direction, which could spell trouble for the country. It is on the record that the Modi's government attacking institution and attempting to install people sympathetic to RSS ideology. They have filled educational institutions with RSS workers. Now they are making attempt to fill the judiciary with RSS people. The imprint of RSS is seen even everywhere, even in the cabinet reshuffle last year when a big reshuffle took place. About half of the new or promoted ministers had strong RSS connection. RSS wants minority Muslims and Christians to accept India is a nation of Hindus. It's pushing some of them to convert. In order to achieve the stated agenda, the RS strategy is to spread its Hindu first ideology to all corners of the India by propelling the Prime Minister Modi's Janata Party to empower as many states as possible. The RSS provided footprint in the 2019 inside general elections victory by Modi, who joined the movement in his youth, winning a state like West Bengal outside the ruling party traditional stronghold would give Modi greater control over Rajya Sabha, which would put him in a better position to push through key policies. While looking at the policy influence of RSS, we have to witness that what also emerges is the impact of RSS is having on government rhetoric and decision. Once scorned as a right-wing fringe group, the RSS is ideological parent of the BJP. The Modi government has appointed RSS sympathizer to prominent position in the recent past. This includes the chairman of the Film and Television Institute of India, the chairman of the Indian Council of Historical Research, and board members of the Security and Exchange Board of India, RSS, and its affiliate. Modi spent his formative year as a full-time volunteer in the group, which is he credits for his work ethic and discipline and success. BJP President Amit Shah and 7 members of the Modi's cabinet also joined the RSS in their youth. Minister Rajnath Singh, who was once an RSS official and went on to lead the BJP, is now pushing for a nationwide ban on cow slaughter. Once we look at the RSS strategy, RSS agenda is to reflect a specific brand of cultural nationalism in government institutions by engineering long-term changes in their program and priorities by appointing RSS loyalists. Foremost is the rapid growth of affiliated groups, penetrating almost all areas of society, followed by the spread of these affiliates into areas directly impacted by public policy has prompted the RSS to take an interest in influencing government decision making. This development, they admitted, present the RSS with the growing challenge of coordinating the many parts of ever-expanding Parivar whose members have different and often competing interests. Significantly, all junior ministers have at least one AD from the RSS to coordinate decisions and, and act as a bridge between ministers and the Sangh. All senior appointments in the government have to be vetted by the BJP's organization secretary, who essentially is drafted into BJP from the RSS. Significantly, all this has been achieved in the relatively short period of last 5 years with a brute majority in the recently held Lok Sabha election. Narendra Modi-led NDA government is likely to ensure complete saffronization of the country in the time to come. From new Rashtrapati to the vice presidential frontrunner, from prime minister to multiple state chief minister, RSS has followers in the highest ranks of the government. However, RSS has always exercised political and cultural influence. In 1979, for the first time, RSS men occupied top cabinet positions in the Janata government. In 1993, Prachani Atal Bihari Vajpayee became the prime minister and ruled for 3 non-consecutive terms. What is different today is the electoral dominance of the BJP, propelled by a strong booth and ground level connection by the BJP and the RSS functionary and the Sangh respectively. There is no doubt that the RSS is part of new dominant national mainstream of the country. RSS has trapped the individuals and invested in them until they reach the political heights. Both PM Narendra Modi and BJP President Amit Shah are products of this system. As the Sangh approaches its 100th year in 2025, its hold over the Indian state apparatus as well as civil society and institution will keep on growing. The RSS-led Hindu resurgence appears irreversible. RSS is undergoing political mainstreaming because the president, vice president, and the prime minister are all of these sympathizers, loyalists to the RSS. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is a lifetime member of the RSS, rising through the ranks of the RSS. Then the BJP, he became the chief minister of Gujarat in 2001, 1 year after he assumed the charge of CM in 2002. Thousands of Muslims were killed in the Gujarat carnage. Forward to 2014, Modi became the PM of India. The RSS hold on Indian polity grows over stronger. Mob lynching of Muslim occurs frequently. Cow slaughter is a de facto ban in many states of India. Violence in Kashmir is also soars to the new heights. Until a few years ago, the RSS had focused on achieving its vision of Hindu nation from outside the electoral realm. RSS volunteered would meet weekly at the thousands of branches around the country to talk about Hinduism and civic duty and practice material exercise and discipline. Those interested in the electoral politics traditionally migrated to the BJP and its predecessor, Johnson, which shared much of RSS ideology. Today, the RSS is more powerful than ever. Modi cut his teeth in sectarian politics as a member of the RSS, and the BJP is one of the member of RSS offshoot of the organization. Ideology is critical to its success. When the BJP stands for election, it does not merely stand against the parties on policy ground. It stands to challenge the secular constitutional order on which the Indian Republic was founded. The intervening years have only seen Modi strengthen his anti-Islam stance, helping to entrench Islamophobia among the eager audience. In fact, he has taken the underlying ideology of the RSS and folded it into the government through laws that adversely affect the Muslims of India. The world's largest NGO, the so-called cultural organization RSS had never had such a stronghold over politics and governance of the country as it is enjoying today at the political landscape. The RSS continue to be an NGO with special privileges. The RSS agenda has for long been to ensure that institutions set up by the state or subsidized by the state reflect a specific brand of cultural nationalism by engineering long-term changes in its program and priorities and by appointing individuals who would loyally implement such changes. RSS helped to wipe out Western Mughal left and socialist influence on Indian history, literature, and culture. The Sangh agendas includes introducing changes in curriculum by taking control over educational institutions, training institutes, and recruiting agencies. The government has appointed individuals with marked leaning toward the Sangh's philosophy to head the institution like Indian Historical Research, Indian Institute of Advanced Study at Shimla, Banaras Hindu University, Jawaharlal Nehru University, the Indian Council of Social Sciences Research, etc. This was the internal side of the RSS, how it was branding its nationalism. So for the external front, it is equally vibrant. So for that aspect is concerned. Right from the beginning, the RSS advocated an alliance with the US by rejection of the non-alignment and made no secret of its distaste for communist China. The quest for international sway is coupled with the divisiveness in India based on hate. As long as Modi and BJP do not back away from the arresting India's strategic interest and continue to work for a military strong country, which includes a growing security relationship with the US, the RSS and its affiliates will continue to support Modi's right to shape Indian foreign policy. For this reason, it applauded Modi's firm response to Chinese road-building effort by boycotting the BRI project. America's melting pot culture, having the taste of India's Hindus organization, these Hindus, Civic, generally known as HSS, the international wing of RSS, few more outfits are making deep inroads of the US politics. In nutshell, the RSS derived to position India as a preacher to the world captures a long-term political program of eliminating political dissent within the country and later establishing control over South Asia. This is how RSS is pleading to control, pleading its ideology to control not domestic affairs. It is already dominating all helm of affairs because Modi himself has been the worker of RSS, and no doubt BJP is a political wing of RSS. With this, I end to my talk on the stated topic. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Safarahman Malik. I think it is a very enlightening and educating talk, because when we talk about the political aspect of the influence of RSS, I think some of us tend to ignore the fact that when they're in the driving seat, they're able to appoint people at key positions in various important research institutions, educational institutions, and as you also mentioned, perhaps in the judiciary as well. So that makes the influence much stronger of the organization. And as you said, like it portrays itself as a cultural organization, but it actually is a right-wing pressure group, and it is highly influential in India, especially by virtue of the fact that Prime Minister Modi is a lifetime member of the RSS, and many of the senior level uh, members of the BJP are actually members of the RSS as well. And also, I particularly enjoyed your comments about the international influence of such pressure groups, especially when they are in such power as RSS is in India right now. Thank you for covering the political aspect of RSS very comprehensively, Dr. Safarahman Malik. Now we come to the social aspect of it, on which we have another distinguished panelist with us, Dr. MUJEEB Afzal. Dr. Mujeeb Afzal is an assistant professor at the School of Politics and International Relations at the Quaid-e-Azam University, Islamabad. He has a number of notable research works published in both national and international journals. Dr. Mujeeb has authored the Bharatiya Janata Party and the Indian Muslims, which is a book. Dr. Mujeeb Afzal published a chapter in the book India in South Asia: Challenges and Management. The title of the chapter was Understanding Pakistani Perspective in the Prism of Pakistan-India Relations. Dr. Mujeeb Afzal's expertise are on India and South Asia. With that introduction, please, Dr. Mujeeb Afzal, you're welcome to share your thoughts with us.
Thank you, Arishkan. I'm grateful to IRIS for affording me this opportunity. Uh, Basically, we are talking about two competing ideas of social sciences when we discuss the social aspect of RSS or the social movement, the RSS. One is the political perspective, social political perspective, in which behavior and changes come from top to the bottom, and it's a downward approach of power politics. Second is a social process which is bottom to up, and it's basically based itself on the social interaction. In political perspective, uh, we argue that it is the authoritative values distribution that is essentially formulate the system. So the way authoritative values are distributed are essentially form the system and determine its behavior. Uh, there is an element of social engineering in which from top we intervene into the social processes and try to create a society in accordance with our own vision. In this perspective, essentially, society is seen as a subordinate institution, and institutions that are distributing authoritative values are perceived as neutral institutions. In a counter perspective, the social interaction perspective, essentially, it is a process in which we distribute cognitive values and economic resources and create structures of power. So power is perceived as subordinate to the society. And essentially, it is all these political systems are perceived as subservient or to a dominant social group. So all institutions, political institutions, are perceived especially subordinate to the interest of a dominant social group, one. And secondly, any change if have to come, it has to be through the process of society, and we need to change the social interaction among various components of the society. But in case of post-colonial societies of our world, the Asia and Africa, there is a slightly different process. And that process is that we have not created the state. The state was created by the outside. And the state institutions, they have relative autonomy for their survival. They are less dependent on the social groups for their survival and their formulation of the policy. So in our state and societies, for a meaningful change, a movement need to work both at the state level to change the authoritative values and at the society level to change the social interaction. In case of RSS, through the idea of European romantic nationalism, conceive itself through the European romantic nationalism and organize on almost on the same pattern of European right-wing paramilitary groups. It decided to follow the societal model and focus on the transformation of the society. Through its Shaha system, it created very dedicated workers, termed Pracharaks. Virtually, it now has an army of Hindu nationalists that are working for the awakening of the Hindu nation. And their basic purpose is as RSS, their basic purpose is to serve as a Hindu nation, Hindu Rashtra in miniature for the change in the society. So they will serve as an example for the rest of the India that what type of Hindu society should be there. They think that it's their mission that Hindus should discover their pure traditions uh, through their process. They should end that tradition that was there prior to the invasion of the foreigners, both Muslims and later on the British. And secondly, they want them to practice these traditions with pride and differentiate these traditions from the corrupt practices of others, the Muslims and the Christians. Their vision is to create a state and society that is based on Hindu ethos. Other, Others, Muslims and Christians or any other ethos of any community, either should accept the primacy of Hindu ethos and convert to them, or accept a subordinate status for their own tradition. So essentially, their purpose is to create an hierarchical society in which primacy is given to the Hindus and their tradition, and other traditions and other ethos are treated as subordinate. And whenever there is a clash between the Hindu ethos and the ethos of any other community, the primacy will be given to the Hindu ethos, and other has to accept the secondary position. And it is exactly because of their this approach of converting the society into a Hindu society, they stay away from, since their inception in 20s, they stay away from the nationalist movement. And in these days, it is kind of an embarrassment that they did not participate in the national struggle for freedom of India against the British. But soon they discovered the post-colonial compulsions of the state in which they were living, in which political power was essential to follow their social approach. So even if they wish to survive as a social movement, they need to participate in the political process. And that was demonstrated in their first ban by the government after the murder of Mahatma Gandhi. The Nathuram was blamed to be one of the member of the RSS, though he has also links with the Hindu Mahasabha as well. In this negotiating process of re-establishing themselves or becoming a legitimate party group again, they were forced to accept the liberal Indian constitution, Indian flag, and the principle of election to govern the organization, society, and the state. And over the period of time, it has evolved virtually a web of political, social, and educational and welfare front organization uh, to, to work at both level of politics and the society. This is called the so-called the Sangh Parivar. Sangh Parivar essentially is formed and governed by the RSS Pracharaks, and they are working under the direct control of Nagpur. Nagpur is the headquarter of the RSS. In politics, essentially they started with the creation of Bharatiya Jana Sangh, which continued to function till it was merged in the Bharatiya Janata Party, the opposition party, Morality Decide, which first time governed India as a non-Congress party, and later on they created the present Bharatiya Janata Party. Almost the same party, Bharatiya Jana Sangh, was reinterpreted as Bharatiya Janata Party with slight modification and more opening for the non-RSS members. But essentially, BJP is controlled by the RSS Pracharaks. every general secretary of the organization comes directly from the RSS. Even at a district level unit of BJP, the general secretary who actually controls the functioning of the Bharatiya Janata Party comes from the RSS. So RSS virtually control the Bharatiya Janata Party. The next interesting group for the political functioning is Vishwa Hindu Parishad. Its actual purpose was to promote Hinduism outside India and collect funds to work for the welfare activities within India. And it also had assumed added responsibility of uniting the Hindu traditional leadership. And also, they have created the front organization like Dharam Jagran Samiti, which is actually involved in the reconversion of Muslims and Christians to the Hindus. The second two groups, one is the Bajrang Dal and the Durga Vihni. Bajrang Dal essentially is for the aggressive youth who's actually not uh, trained in the discipline of RSS, uh, kind of a hooligans uh, whom RSS used for its violent activities. And same is the case with these Durga Vihinis, which is a women organization. And they also had, to a certain extent, created because of the bad name which was given to the Bajrang Dal during the 1992 demolition of the Babri Masjid, Hindu Jagran Manch. Uh, that is also almost creation of the Bajrang Dal. They also have created a women wing of Rashtriya Sevaka Samiti for the women, Akhil Bharatiya Vidyarthi Parishad for the students, Bharatiya Janata Yuva Morcha for the youth. So essentially, these are some of the organizations which are working as the front organization for RSS in the political arena. In education, their main is Vidya Bharati, which is a school system that is imparting uh, normal education with Hindu ethos uh, in India, and especially the rural areas. And Ikal Vidyalay, it is a solo school system in tribal areas, which is basically doing the same job of Vidya Bharatiya, but in far-flung areas and the rural areas. In economic field, they do have the front organization like Bharatiya Mazdoor Sangh, Bharatiya Kisan Sangh, Swadeshi Jargon Manch. Uh, Basically, they are dealing with the economic portion of the society. And essentially, the significant point was the Swadeshi group is that they are against foreign direct investment, and they have repeatedly clashed with the Bharatiya Janata Party on these issues. And then they have the host of communication, media, newspapers, wings, all these things are there to preach their point of view. The most interesting is the Buddhik Bathak, Buddhik sessions. Actually, these Buddhik sessions take place in Shakha context, where in through drama they try to teach the history. And since 2000, interesting theme is to reconquer the Kashmir, and repeatedly this drama is played in their this boutique session. And then they have the night schools in which they try to educate the street children. And also there is a sanskar kandras. These are the cultural centers where they try to have the cultural events to promote the Hindu nationalist processes. At a local language, they have excessive network all these organizations, newspapers, journals, pamphlets, they are who are doing their job. In case of Gujarat, for instance, Sandesh played a very significant role in the Hinduization of the Gujarat society. Even among the Muslims, according to who are converted to the RSS point of view, they have created a front organization, Muslim Rashtriya Manch. So it is an extensive uh, front organization who are being controlled and governed and run by the Sangh Parivar. They are all supported by the massive network of the RSS. Almost 6 million Pracharaks are now members of the RSS. Around 60,000 shakas are working in India at 300, almost 380,000 places in India. Virtually all over India, RSS Shakha and members are working for the construction of a Hindu Rashtra. Strategy is they wanted to, the first process is through these old networks and these old structures, they have equated patriotism with Hinduism. You are a good Indian if you are a good Hindu. You are a patriot if you are following the Hindu policies. If you oppose violent strategy of RSS, you are anti-Hindu, you are anti-India, you are almost pro-secular Congress and pro-Muslim. So they have created a standard of being a good Indian. If you wish to be good Indian, you have to be good Hindu. That's the first thing they have created through this entire social structure, an atmosphere of standardization of the Hindu as good or bad. Second, they have used the instrument of communal violence. Throughout history, closer to elections or on any issue, they have created communal violence, massive communal violence. And all the time, in this communal violence, the opposite party is declared as an equal party. Muslims are around 13.5% in India, and they are dealing with the 85% Hindu population, but they are treated as equal. It was a clash between Hindu and the Muslim, and both are equally responsible. That's way they have shifted the responsibility of these violence to the Muslims, but at the same time, they have sharpened the fault lines between the communities. Communities, whenever there is a violence, these fault lines are sharpened and with more clarity, communities are created. So Muslims are others, Muslims are enemy, and Hindus are the part of in-group. So in-group, out-group creation is created through perpetual instrument of communal violence. And exactly the same thing these cow vigilantes did. They, under this cow Raksha movements throughout India, created a violence. Muslims were defined as the violator of the mother cow. They are the one who are killing them. And these are the mujahideens who are protecting the mother cow. So again, exactly the same process of creating good in-group and bad out-group. The third process is demonization of not individuals, but the entire community. Entire Muslim community through this process is created as kind of a demon. It's a process of preaching hate. Through rewriting history, textbooks, Muslims are defined as destroyers, destroyers of temples, Hindu great monuments, and they have created a legend that Muslims are the rapists of the Hindu women. Through these processes, social processes, essentially they have created an environment in which Hindu nationalism, its ethos, and its concept are considered as a normal polity. The new normal is that Hindu and the Hinduism, what is doing, interpreted by the RSS, not Hinduism which is being practiced by the people, but Hinduism that is defined by the RSS is essentially a normal polity. And imagine even the opposition parties who are claiming to be secular parties are now trying to comply and coexist within this Hindutva environment. And so it has become very easier to pass the cow protection law, anti-religious conversions laws. Almost 24 to 26 states of India has passed these laws, both these laws. Inter-religion marriages are almost banned under the cover of this love jihad. There is a residential segregation, like in Hindu areas, Muslims are moving out, and Muslims, it is increasing the process of Muslim ghettoization. And then is escalation in the exclusion of Muslims from the social protection programs. All these social protection programs in which Muslims are being cast out as a community which is privileged community. Muslim personal law, which was promised in 1929 in an agreement between the Congress and the JUI India, was first time amended by the present Bharatiya Party government in the shape of a triple talaq. Otherwise, it was an agreement. It was agreement between the two party wars that they will never touch the Muslim personal law. That was the basic condition on which the one nation theory was accepted by Jamiat Ulama Hind. Babri Masjid, the entire episode, you know, it was even the judiciary became criminalized and become part of it. And now the next process is already started with the Kashmir Citizen Amendment Act, in which Muslims are separated from the rest of the communities, is the best example of this social process. So entire process essentially is to create an atmosphere where Hindu ethos are considered as legitimate ethos and the others ethos are considered as violator of the Hindu ethos or trying to corrupt the Hindu ethos. So the process which this entire Sangh Parivar is involved in is legitimization and making Hindu politics as a normal norm in India at every level of the society. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mujeeb AFZAL, for taking us on a journey of the RSS from a politically fringe group to a very much a mainstream group, and it's quite fascinating. I think RSS has come a very long way if you look at where it stood in 1948 when Nathuram Godse killed Mahatma Gandhi. It was banned, and then as you suggested, then as you shared with us, that it then focused primarily on social transformation and did not involve in politics at that time and had to accept the liberal order of India at the time. But slowly and gradually, as we see that RSS is pretty much mainstream in India now, and it has very far-reaching consequences, not only for the minorities in India, but also for the Indian society in general. I also have a few questions with regard to that, but before I ask my own question and monopolize my prerogative as the moderator, I would request anyone else who would want to ask any questions. Otherwise, I might call out some senior members of the session today who are participating with us, Dr. Rashid Wali or Dr. Shabana Fayaz, if you would want to contribute. And if anybody would want to ask any question, there is a reactions tab below your screen where you can see a raise hand option and you can raise your hand. Otherwise, Dr. Rashid Wali and Dr. Shabana Fayaz, if you would want to ask, give a comment or ask any question. Yeah, I think Imran wants to ask a question, so I'll let Imran ask the question.
Thank you very much, Harish, and thank you very much, Dr. Mujeeb Saab,
Imran, I guess there's some problem with your signals. We cannot hear you.
Survival of India as a distinct Hindu state lies in uniting the Hindus
Are the panelists able to hear what Imran is asking?
No.
I think there is some problem with the signals. Imran, I think we'll come back to you. In the meanwhile, Dr. Mujeeb Afzal, I have a question for you. But you just shared with us how the mainstreaming of RSS over the years has transformed its role in the Indian society and its influence in the Indian society. We have seen different kinds of responses from the Muslim community in India, uh, but we are not really sure what is the overall influence of RSS on the Muslim community in India. On the one side, we see Muslim responses such as voting for the Muslim political parties like IMIM. On the other hand, we see that there are laws that are particularly targeting the Muslims in the states like UP and MP. So is the Muslim reaction sort of taking a backseat, or are they coalescing among themselves in response to such influences?
Uh, Actually, Muslim support to Hindu nationalist movement has never crossed the 5% mark. So maximum they have supported, voted for the Hindu Nationalist Party is 5%. Mostly, generally, it is the 3% or something. There were, like Muslim intellectual me of Dr. Imtiaz and all these who tried to have a reconciliation with the RSS, but essentially it didn't work out. So Muslims are staying out of the Hindu nationalist movement. One of the sign is that in 301 Lok Sabha members, there is not even a single Muslim MP of the Bharatiya Janata Party. So that's a reflection of the Muslim response to them. Muslims did try to have their own organization. Muslim Majlis in Mushafarat was one of one time it was considered as an option, but it virtually failed. Essentially, Muslim are working. Muslim Ittihadul Muslimin are now expanding initially from its territory in Hyderabad, now Aurangabad, and also somewhere in Bihar, sometime in Bihar. But its expansion is very limited and very specific, and also part of the coalition building process between the caste parties and the secular parties. So Muslim initially response was to side with the caste parties, and now I think most of the Muslim vote is going to the caste parties and the regional parties. So Muslim own response is less there. But for this second election, re-election of Modi, I think to a certain extent has terrified the Muslim minority. And the reflection is their response to the decision of the Supreme Court on the Babri Mosque. Virtually, the majority Muslim response was that it's okay, it is out of the way. Now they can have a normal participation into the politics. But essentially, Muslims are standing outside. One of the strong response came on the Citizen Amendment Act. It was the first time Muslim middle class came out along with the communists. It was a combined, and it is still very strong, emerging kind of political grouping, informal political grouping of the Muslims and the left. Uh, Both are declining groups in Indian politics as far as the power politics is concerned. So both need each other. And especially it will be unique that after almost 60, 70 years, it will be the first time that the left will be active. Left was active in the north of India. Otherwise, virtually left function in the south of India. So left and Muslim unified response at the youth level, I think that is the major development against the RSS policies or the Bharatiya Janata Party's election and re-election. But otherwise, Muslims are mostly mostly.
Thank you, Dr. Mujeeb Afzal. I have a question for Dr. Saif Malik as well. Sir, as we have seen that BJP has been winning elections. They have won the last two Lok Sabha elections as well, and various state assembly elections as well. So what do you think is the reason for that? Is it because the Hindutva ideology of RSS is gaining more and more popularity among the Hindus, or is it because the BJP is playing better politics than other political parties in general?
In fact, if I have to find out the one factor, this is what you have mentioned in your question. Basically, BJP is manifestation of RSS political ideology. So we can see that it is now very difficult, not only for BJP or even upcoming the government, to diffuse or neutralize the influence of RSS in the Indian polity and in the society. So mainly, this influence is so deep as Hinduism, Hindu Rashtra, and Mahabharata. So these are the slogans which have penetrated so deeply in the Indian society. Getting them out from such slogan, I think it is not possible by any of the government in the time to come. And secondly, whenever Modi, whether it's the previous like 2014 or the last election, so he used the combination of all the factors. One we have just mentioned, other you mentioned. The third factor is the anti-Pakistan. And this anti-Pakistan slogan again has the color of hate, which has been penetrated through the prism of RSS in the Indian society.
Thank you, Dr. Mujeeb Afzal. Would you like to add something here?
I agree with that, sir. Essentially, it's not a singular factor which is reflecting this present rise of the Hindu nationalism. If you remember during at the time of 2014 election, Bharatiya Janata Party was not in a good position. Essentially, they were heading for a third defeat. And we all were expecting that if they will be defeated in this election, virtually as an instrument of translation of group interest, they will cease to be a political party. But it was the personality, I think, of Narendra Modi. They owe this success to the personality of this uh, man. I think this brings me to a kind of a theoretical point of the South Asian politics. That all the time the instrument of politics, in politics, the instrument of change or delivery is an individual. So Hindu nationalism lost in 1940s against the Indian nationalism because of the personality of Mahatma Gandhi. Later on, it was the personality of Nehru. Uh, they did elected in 1999 uh, Atal Bihari Vajpayee, but he was not, he was a dynamic person, but he failed to emerge as a popularly charismatic person. Modi has emerged as a charismatic person, and his charisma actually made the difference and popularize and legitimize everything that we are looking today. So this again brings to the next small question: is it Modi vote bank or the Hindu vote bank? So it's a very serious crisis for all those who are working on India to define this as a Hindu vote bank or the Modi vote bank. Especially, it has its own vote bank, the Hindu Nationalist Party, around 18 to 20%. That is their vote bank since 1992. And it has evolved over a longer period of time. But rest of the 17%, 18% vote bank is very much, I think, attributed to the Modi's personality, Amit Shah, his organizational skill, and the strong commitment of the RSS Pracharaks. I think it is a combination of this one. And secondly, this increasingly capitalist India, where insecurity is very much is the name of the game. Today you are owner of the successful business, tomorrow you may disappear from the business scene. So this insecurity among the youth and the desire to mobile upwardly in the middle class are actually two phenomena which are feeding each other, and that's where Hindu nationalism is there. But is it a long-term phenomena? I think in a process of indigenization, whenever you come down to the society and try to discover your indigenous tradition, it always be the Hindu tradition. But whether that tradition will be politicized and created as part of the division between the Hindu and the Muslim, or it will be treated like a Sanskrit process in a different manner, like the Congress tried to project a model. I think that will be a continuously competition between the two, the Congress model and the BJP or the Hindu nationalist model. Congress model is not out yet. It is still very much there. They have a constant vote bank of 20%. Repeatedly, they have demonstrated any time they can bounce back. And the last point, if I can say, it is the first time, especially with the last 6 months, with this Kisan movement, they have that both groups have come out in clarity about their ideas. Congress has come out for its mixed economy, and it's emphasized on the lower section of the society. And the BJP has come out very openly. Even Modi himself has very openly declared in the parliament his association with the big business and the capitalist and the Western-oriented politics of India. So actually, we are going to see not a Hindu-dominated, a Hindu nationalist-dominated India, but a competitive India between the two competing point of views of the Congress Nehruvian model and the Hindu nationalist, Hindutva model.
Thank you. Tabinder Siddiqui, you can go ahead and please ask your question.
Sure. Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Okay. Thank you very much for such an informed discussion by both the participants. Sir, this is a common question. First of all, it is very informed, but it is alarming as well to know that BJP and RSS is not just a single party phenomenon, but it is a network of plethora of organizations that work at every level of state and society. And if we try to analyze, this is a success story on the part of BJP or on the part of the RSS or every affiliated organization that work on their platform and on behalf of them. This is a really success story. What else a party can achieve? To mobilize its support in less than 75 years, to become a powerful party in a mighty country like India and form a government and transform a society into a level that whatever comes out from India is nothing but a reflection of BJP ideology, anti-Muslim, anti-minority, and full of nationalist sentiments. On the other hand, sir, my question is that while all this was happening in India, and of course our informed circles and scholarly circles must have been aware of these developments. So what were we doing in response to this formidable challenge that has emerged on our eastern borders? Why we lack such sentiments, why we find ourselves always confused throughout history. Like we are never focused on what type of syllabus we should teach to our children, what type of policy we should have towards India, a state that doesn't matter what party is in power, they share the same sentiments towards Pakistan. And their ultimate goal is, we all know, that non-existence of Pakistan or a weak Pakistan or dismembered Pakistan dominated by India. So why we lacked our nationalist policies? To an extent, we see that this was this deficiency was tried to address by General Ziaul Haq's period. Slight nationalist sentiments were expressed and projected and promoted. But other than that, we do see that we are, like our leadership always almost back to India for dialogue, always like what type of message we try to convey to our generation. Whatever you have discussed here, our next generation, our present generation doesn't know about this.
I would request you to kindly sum up.
Yes, sum up is my question, why we lacked our spark. Why were we not aware of this while all this was happening? Now we are aware of this, so how we would like to address this challenge of Modi government in power. Thank you very much.
Okay, I would now also request Humaira to please ask a question so that we can club both the questions together to save some time.
Okay, thank you so much, both the panelists. I have a question. How far RSS has politically transformed from the time of Mr. Vajpayee and the Modi era? And we see that since Modi came into power, the power circle at the national level is observed as being RSS taking charge and ensuring that leaders from the same generation would be governing the Sangh, the government and politics, and the older ones are sidelined. So I wanted to have a take from both the panelists on it. And another thing that it seems that after Modi, there is a perception that after Modi, it is going to be Amit Shah. At the moment, he has been at the back seat, but it is perceived that he will be taking the lead. So would he be able to carry on the similar charisma that Modi presented? Thank you.
Thank you, Humaira. And with these two questions, I would like to club one of my own questions as well. It's about the caste system, Indian Hindu caste system, and how the RSS handles that caste differences within Hinduism to create a common narrative for all the Hindus? Thank you. First, I think I would request Dr. Saif Malik because he was the first to speak, so the first to respond to the question as well.
Thank you, Arish. I will go in the reverse order, taking uh, responding to your first last question, then same sequence respectively. Basically, if we look at the origin of RSS, basically that was initially emerged as a cultural organization to project and to promote Hinduization in the society. Thereafter, they have a lot of social work as well. This social work is not only within India but beyond as well, especially in the especially in South Africa and elsewhere. They have a lot of uh, semi outfits which are working on the charitable work as well. And this work is again doing carried on within India as well. So one can comment that this all what the collection they are getting from various sources. It is only RSS which is never asked what is your sources of funding. Rest are asked. So they are no doubt the Hindu society is a caste-based society, and they believe in Brahmanism and others. Dalits, which are the marginalized society, to some segment of society, they are doing for some charitable work, but that could not neutralize the hatred or the that differentiation with the strong rooted in the Hindu society. They cannot simply do with this social work. Coming to the Humaira, that Amit Shah can match with the Modi's personality? Not at all. Though Amit Shah has been very blunt while giving the interview to various journalists or the foreign media, the way he is declaring the Muslim, even the Termite, even he's also supporting all the action which they have done in the Kashmir, and especially in the context of Article 370, 35, they are justifying it. Even they justify the rape of the Muslim women. So even then, the charisma of Modi, which the Dr. MUJEEB just he was referring, is simply matchless, because this man who was known as a chaiwala, he dominated the India. He generated the Indian polity in a manner conveyed to one point. That point was emerged from the ideology of RSS, that to dominate India through the ideology of Hindutva and RSS, and to project them. This question is very, in fact, you asked the question and you replied as well within the quoted line that what should be the. In fact, unfortunately, in the past, what we have been doing, we had been going for the mostly atom reactive policy, and but I think there is a time now to go with the proactive as well. So for the, if you look at the RSS manifestation, RSS as a subject is taught at the secondary level in India. Even in some selected universities of India, this RSS as a subject is taught. And what about in Pakistan? How much Pakistan studies get the weightage in our syllabus, and how much it is weightage, how many experts are there? And the subject of Pakistaniyat, which essentially we are lacking to teach our children about the reality, especially the development in post 1947 onward. And we must also need to project to our youth and the children, had there been no Pakistan, what would have been its impact? And what is going on with the Muslims in India? This is need to be taught to our children, so that we should also realize the blessings of having this country. But apart from this subject as a Pakistani, we need to be taught to our children, and we need to make them clarified as well. Pakistani nationalism, which we essentially lacking. Our nationalism only emerges when there is a cricket match between Pakistan and India among our that emerges among the youth. Rest, the Hindu soft power, their dramas, their film, they have taken deep roots even in our society. This is what the reality is. Now our thinkers must think about this aspect. what we should give to our children in response to what we are seeing at the moment. We should come up with a well thought out policy that should not be thought, especially in the curriculum. We need to make some radical changes with the help of the academics, think tanks, intelligentsia, and simply it should not be the policy should be devised by the babus sitting in the capital territory. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Over to you, Dr. Mujeeb Afzal.
Thank you very much. I will also follow the tradition of Daksa, starting from the last. I think caste system is one of the fault lines which will continue to exist in India. BJP is trying to overcome it by their process of social engineering. But essentially, it's an upper caste organization. And in Shakha, they do try to create a caste-free environment by teaching them the Brahmanic ethos. So on Brahmanic ethos, they are trying to create a consensus. And to a certain extent, some of the middle class is buying that. And one of the success is that in the recent election of the Lok Sabha, BJP was able to increase their 6% vote. And this 6% vote come at the expense of the caste parties and the regional parties. So their success, at least in UP, was because of the failure of the caste parties. So I think to a certain extent, this Modi factor is helping the social engineering, but this fault line exists and it will continue to exist. I don't think BJP will ever able to become a completely non-Brahmanic party. It will continue to be Brahmanic party, but imagine Modi himself is presenting himself as other backward caste. He is from the other backward caste, the Mudganji caste. And interestingly, he declared his caste as other backward caste when he was the chief minister of Gujarat and prime minister was the Vajpayee. So they are very much aware of the caste politics. They are responding to it. If Muslim is killed, they are silent. But if a Dalit is attacked, in Modi and Amit Shah both come out. So they are very much aware of it, that if this balance is disturbed, they will lose the power. So caste factor is there, it will continue to be there, and it will continue to be a problem of management for the Bharatiya Janata Party and the Hindu nationalists as a whole. Second, as for Amit Shah and Modi, I think Amit Shah is Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel for Modi. He is the backbone of the Modi phenomena. But he is not a charismatic person. He's an organizational man. And he will continue to be an organizational man. He will not able to replace Modi at any period of time. But essentially, he will be the second man of the Modi. Essentially, it is the Modi charisma and Modi phenomena that will survive. As for our crisis, I think our crisis is not transformation of the Muslim nationalism into Pakistani nationalism. We started very successfully, especially during the 60s, 70s, 80s. We have created Pakistani nationalism, and it's very much reflective in every walk of life. Our failure is to create a consensual political system and a better economic system in which we can have development of all sections of the society. Virtually at this moment, there is no serious threat to the Pakistani state from any side, within, at least within, except for the small portion of Balochistan. Pakistani state is not being challenged from any section of the society. Every section of the society is working within the context of the Pakistani state. And that is a very positive, I think, development. Rest is the tactical thing. India rise is not the threat of Indian is not Bharatiya Janata Party or the Hindu nationalism. Is essentially their economic rise. A $3 trillion economy versus Pakistani 250 billion economy. BJP is not a threat. That is, we can debate between the Hindutva and the majoritarianism, which is more dangerous to us. But the more dangerous phenomena is not the development of the Hindu nationalism, is actually the rise of the economic power of India. And if projections are right, within next 5 to 10 years, it will cross the 7 trillion mark. And if we continue to have this type of economic growth which we are having now, and the political instability which we have now, I think that will be a serious trouble for us.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mujeeb Afzal. Dr. Saif Malik has to leave for another commitment. So thank you so much, Dr. Saif, for being here with us and sharing your thoughts with us. We are thoroughly educated. You can proceed to leave, and we'll continue with two last questions from Dr. Mujeeb Afzal.
Thank you, It's pleasure. Thank you.
Dr. Mujeeb, Imran has a question. The question that he could not ask virtually, verbally. His question is about Pakistan's policy on the Muslims in India. Do we have a policy on the Muslims in India, not like in Kashmir, but the rest of India? If yes, what does that policy look like? If not, should we have one?
I don't think we had one. We have one, and it is a serious question. Do we have any consistent policy on India as well? So we can debate on it. But as for the Muslims of India are concerned, I think they cognitively broke off from Pakistan in 70s. And that was the first time when Jamaat Islami passed this resolution of supporting secular constitution and democracy as the best protection for the minorities. And they have continued to pass this resolution in every annual session of Jamaat Islami. And that is where Muslims have started to look inward in India and try to find their solutions within India. So I don't think Pakistan has any policy as far as Muslims are concerned. Or if there is a policy, we really don't know how to reach out to them. Because the moment we reach out to them, their disloyalty phenomena or stigma is intensifying. So they are virtually, and we also at the same time, in a dilemma that if we openly support them, we have a problem of stigmatizing them. And if they openly side with us, they will stigmatize themselves as well. But I just want to say one thing. We are also byproduct of the Muslim nationalism. Babri Masjid was not simply their heritage, it was our heritage. Simply in 47, two strategies of the survival of Muslim nationalism collided with each other, and the byproduct was Pakistan. But it was not the end of Muslim nationalism. Muslim nationalism that flourished in the shape of a pan-Islamism in India. It is still continues, still that webs are there, but how to tap them, I think that is a serious question Pakistanis have to ask. How we can reach out to the Muslims of India. And the second, I think, can we reach out to them in an antagonistic India-Pakistan relationship, or in a relationship in which we have a normalcy between India and Pakistan and less suspicion is cast on the Muslims of India. And there is a more acceptability of the Muslim claim to India, because India is not simply a Hindu India, it is a Muslim India as well. There are 25 crore Muslims who are living in India. But as for our to solution of this dilemma, this twin dilemma of claiming our heritage and stigmatization of the Indian Muslim, I think we still don't have any serious response to that.
Thank you, Dr. Mujeeb Afzal. I think this is all with the Q&A session. We have come to the end of this very interesting, very informative webinar on a very important subject. And I think, as was discussed during the proceedings of this event, that the RSS has come from being a political fringe element right into the mainstream, where it is influencing key decision making in India. And that is going to have far reaching implications, not only for India internally, but also externally for its regional neighbors, especially Pakistan. And this calls for a greater understanding of the RSS phenomenon in India. And thank you so much to Dr. Saif Malik, and thank you so much, Dr. Mujeeb Afzal, for joining us today and enlightening us on this very important subject. And thank you to all the participants and all the organizers of this event. Thank you so much. And we'll see you some other time, inshallah, very soon. Thank you.